Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are live. And we are live with our new series. Why didn't anybody tell me about that? Why didn't anybody tell me about the money moves? Why didn't anybody tell me about the business of family? Why didn't anybody tell me how to set up trust and money and have certain accounts set? Why didn't anybody tell us how to set our businesses up properly so that we could use other people's money to fund it? So if you are new here, I am Latanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, Passion, and Profits. And today I am bringing a new series forward called Why Didn't Anybody Tell Us? And so I hope that you will join in the conversation, add to the conversations, and absolutely join us in the comments. But you are also invited to be a guest because I want to feature people in our community who has so much to offer. You have so much to offer to our community, from hair and hair care, transitioning. I know that I did a series already about, hey, Marcia, about curls and such, and your natural curls. We had an amazing series, the Not Like Us series. To be honest, we could have kept the Not Like Us series going after the Super Bowl, since it was such a hot topic. However, this time I want to go specifically into reproductive mysteries, and how some of these things have also not been shared and have not been told to us about perimenopause. This really is how the conversation started. It was perimenopause that started this thing of why didn't anybody tell us about perimenopause? But then I started talking to some of my nieces who are high achieving women, high profile women, who also was like, there's so many things that the mothers, the aunties did not tell us about. And we're talking about uh, tips around for new mothers. There's a whole list. So we're going to have a special panel with just the group of women who are younger. They're not Gen X, they're millennials. So millennial moms, millennial wives, and we're going to have a cross generational conversations. Greetings from Los Angeles. All right, come on in the room. Yes, and please shout out your exactly, where you all are from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we are going to have a special guest on that is uh not new to some of you, and you may have just known her voice because she has been a part of this program. We've even done a program together to really, in a season where so many people were feeling depleted, and we literally just together joined forces and did a 30-day program. You all know that's just what I do. And I can put together a program with my eyes closed, because essentially you start to have a library of information, and it needs to be shared, it needs to be released. And so what you don't know, though, is a lot of you don't know the recovery story of this sister, who is also, she's not that great with technology, but she is working her way online. I know she's working to get in here. And so I would also like for you, those of you who have things that you also have been talking about, like, why didn't anybody tell me about trust? Why didn't anybody tell me about preparing my mother's or father's property? Some of us who are Gen Xers, we are at the stage in our lives where we are preparing for our parents. If our parents are elderly or seniors or even not well, every time I talk to another person in my friend group, they're dealing with something from how to the will, but not just the will. When the power of attorney, competing family members and siblings who have agendas that you wouldn't have ever thought that the people who raised you would then compete with something that your mother or father worked so hard to have. Why do we have to have a GoFundMe account in order for us to bury our loved ones? Why didn't anybody tell us about how to use life insurance as an investment into a business or something else that we have? The other day, I was talking to someone who needed about $10,000 or $20,000. And how many of you have people who in your life that you can go to that has $10,000 or $20,000 to loan you? Well, there are other international friends who do cooperative economics within their families quite easily. They do cooperative economics through susus. A lot of people want to do susus with people on the internet that you've never met, but that's not the how susus are done. And so there are other international families that do susus literally to get one family member on their feet, and then the next one, and it's an order, right? And so many of us have not known. So when we talk about us being disenfranchised, it's not just poverty and government funding that we need. We need the same free game that we see Africans come to the States and that they implement. They don't come in with the same beggar or poverty or black story either. How is it that Mexicans are coming into your community right now? And this is absolutely no knock. I remember when a brother by the name, I believe his name is Jamar, and he made a video crying, saying how I wish we would do this in our communities. It was a torn down house, a rundown house, and essentially the Latinos bought the house, and they were cousins, brothers, friends of the family who came and piece by piece by piece put that house back together again. How many of us, why didn't anybody tell us that sharecroppers actually had an investment in the land? And when we went off, well, not us, but some of our big sisters and brothers who are baby boomers, when they went off to college, the agreement was they were supposed to come back and to help cultivate the business part while they tended to the land. Well, that didn't happen. A lot of people in who were baby boomers went off to college and said, I don't want to do that kind of hard work. So they took offers, and now we are disassociated not just from our own birthright, but we're disassociated from the land. And the story continues to repeat itself over and over and over and over again, because by the time we get the information, and this is what Dr. Claude Anderson said. He said that we are so behind on money moves and moves that's going to create generational wealth, that the way that we would have to quantum leap is so extreme. And for some, there are some people who are still trying to do that work and do that education. So we started a Dr. Claude Anderson Powernomics conversation almost 3 years ago. So here we are. And so today we're going to open up this series. Some of you who are in the comments in the community, go ahead and shout out your city, where you're from. I already got Los Angeles in the house. I know we got Detroit in the house. We have Louisiana in the house. um, And I don't know who Collins and why Collins you decide to come into my live, but it looks like you're a troll. But that means we must be doing something right that we are even attracting the trolls. Okay, St. Louis is in the house. All right now. Pittsburgh is in the house. Project Safe Storage. Come on now. Um, Wherever. Okay, well, Atlanta by way of Pittsburgh, right? In the house. All right. And then there's some more of you who are from DC, Maryland, Virginia. You know, that's my old stomping ground. But you know, your girl had to come back to our indigenous land down south. All right, Detroit is in the house. That's where my family migrated to. Okay. So we're also going to have a genealogist. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We're going to have a genealogist come on, and this is the genealogist that has been guiding me and who is going to be pivotal for those of you who will be in the genealogy study group with me in the portal, in the RIM portal. All right. So our beloved sister that I've been talking about is here, and we're going to talk about recovery in a broad sense and some of the projects that she's doing. Welcome to the stage, Dr. Tina Pipkin.
Hey, 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 everybody. Hello, greetings.
Welcome, Dr. Tina. So, Dr. Tina, I had to get on here before she goes across the waters to Ghana, her other home.
Yes, yes, yes.
and restore her soul, because it's so refreshing. Talk about, we're gonna talk about your background, but talk about how refreshing it is to be off this grid.
Mm. It's so refreshing for me. I can only tell my story. People have many stories that go to Ghana and do whatever they do for Ghana, but for me, it's almost like I'm stepping into another portal, because it's so 100% different than my life here in the U.S. And my house in Kumasi in West Africa is, I get up in the morning with a piece of cloth wrapped around me, greeted by my chickens and my mango tree in my front yard. I
I
get
remember
lost.
those days in Costa Rica. Oh my
Oh,
God, I remember those days. It was the horses for me. The
oh
horses would
my
come and
gosh.
wake us up in the morning.
Yes.
I didn't know horses do that, but they literally they would come to the gate. First, they used to come to the gate and make their sound, but then they started finding a way to get to like move the branches that would
Yes.
hit up against our tree. The horses would
To
do
get
that
your attention.
to
Yes.
get our
Yes.
attention.
Yeah.
So wow. I
Yeah.
love this for you. I love this for us to get off of this grid. Does your
Ooh.
body just naturally relax?
Naturally. I don't have to do no breathing exercises. I don't have to do no long meditations. I don't have to do no just purposely, consciously detaching from devices and people and places and things like here. It's just so unapologetically beautiful and serene. Like it's rejuvenation for me at a whole nother level. A whole nother level.
I love that for you.
Me too.
Because you a busy body, and
Too
you
busy, girl.
you say
Too.
that you're not so busy when you're in Ghana.
No, I'm not busy at all when I'm in Ghana, unless I purposely and intentionally need to do something, whether I'm going to the farm or I'm going to my school. I don't, I get up with a cup of tea and just woosah, walking bare feet in the grass. Just, yeah, it's a different world than my world is here, because I got to fight for some time for myself here in Atlanta. But in Africa, and then I'm served, I'm taken care of, I'm just loved on. It's
Talk
just,
about
it's a different kind of life. It's
it.
different, and I love it.
So we see your fabulousness, Dr. Tina. You know, you bring your exuberance into any room that you come into, but you have a story. And you know,
Mm,
you and I talk about religious addiction, Because many people hear your recovery story from being an addict, from being a stripper, but they don't know all the time how you got there unless they come to work with you.
Yeah.
So I want to go back before we talk about recovery, because sometimes people are listening to an addict story that was on crack or that was on drugs or something like that, but they don't see the addict in themselves.
Yeah. True that.
I wish somebody had told me about other addictions, other ways that we can become addicted to pain,
Right.
addicted to
Addicted to
struggle,
drama. Addicted.
addicted to drama. I should have put that on the list. Oh my God. You know what? Because I have such a drama-free life that I didn't even think to put drama
Yeah.
on as an option.
Yeah.
But there are some people that are so filled with drama that it's their normal.
Yeah. It's a
Oh
real
my
thing
God,
for
I'm so
people.
glad you mentioned
Yeah.
that. Okay. Wow. I didn't even think about drama. That's a good one. And listen, a friend, a reverend sister of mine invited me to a conversation about politics that I don't normally have. But she
Mm-hmm.
specifically asked a question about racism. And I gave a long, I took some time and gave a long answer. And I was like, I said, I got time today. Since you asked me, you tagged me, and
Okay.
I done told you, don't be putting me. So here we go. And one of the things that the author that she had quoted was talking about how we're addicted to the racism conversation, that
Yeah.
we're addicted to struggle narratives in
Yeah.
terms of race. And one thing about Africans is when they come to the United States, they don't have a race consciousness and a race conversation.
No. No.
So let's start with recovery. How you became Dr. Tina. Tell us a little bit about you and your background,
Oh,
starting with
well.
being a PK.
Exactly. I was just about to go there. I am a proud daughter as a PK kid. My father was the pastor, the leader, the orator, the charismatic, just amazing, magnetic being. He was so loved by the masses in churchdom. Um, we lived probably 8 different states growing up. And he would just go from church to church, from contract to contract. And that's how we lived growing up. But the people loved him. I mean, they loved everything. And he was a master in his craft. He was really a people's person. He loved people. Um, he did so much service, so much honoring. It was just amazing to watch my father in his element. And as much as I grew up with that, seeing my father at the pulpit was actually the last time I saw him too. I was on my way to Ghana, and I was having breakfast near his church. And I said, let me pop in and say hey to my daddy before I go. And I just stood at the door and I was just looking at him. And oddly enough, as spirit would have it, somebody walked over to my daddy while he was preaching, mid-preach, to tell him that I was standing at the door. And mid-preach, he said, daughter, do you need something? Because I'm a little busy. I said, no, daddy, go on, finish. I just came to say hi. That's all. And that was it. And I said hi, and I did like this, and I walked out the door. And that was the last time I seen him.
Every time I've heard you tell that story, I get the same visual impression.
Really?
Suge Avery in The Color Purple. Don't let me find out that you Suge Avery.
Okay. That was so amazing for me, though. But we know that spirit is a divine setup for everything. And I got to see my daddy doing what he loved the most on this planet. And that was my last
You were a
visual of
church
him.
girl, so you were churched, you
Oh,
indoctrinated.
please. Girl,
You
I
were
was
indoctrinated just like the rest of us.
just like the rest of us. And so much so, I am ordained, licensed, collar wearing, all of that, got all the things. And to prove it, I was very heavily involved in the church and leadership in the church. I was my bishop's armor bearer, my first lady's armor bearer. I did all the things in church. And so from growing up as a church daughter, then growing up, the only thing I knew, because it's the only thing that I was taught, was, church was it. This is what's going to save your life. If you follow these rules, you're going to have a good life, and you're going to be loved by God, and everything's going to be fine. Well, little did I know that is not how it turned out. Okay. And so, church was an amazing foundation for me. I don't know where I'd be had I not had that foundation, which is, a little scary for a lot of the young people in this day and age, because, they don't have big mamas no more dragging them to church. Mamas ain't dragging the kids to church no more, whether they want to be there or not. Which means they have no reference to the spiritual realm. They have no reference to God. They have no reference to a higher power or a divine being. So that's a negative when it comes to our people still being connected to church, if you will, because anything outside of that.
Yeah, because the mothers aren't doing anything. So you remove church and then you just go to nothingness.
Yeah, essentially. And then even those who have called themselves, woke, and doing a different thing, you're not bringing your kids along. And so the kids are suffering because they have no divine connection, or there's nothing higher than themselves that's holding them accountable, that pulls them back in the scope of what is best and better for their lives. So yeah, it's a disservice that we're doing in this movement of becoming unchurched and becoming more spiritual. Part of it is amazing, because we cannot continue to live off of Big Mama theology. You do have to find your divine, creative being, spirit, your own tribe within yourself. But when you got kids, you got to bring them along with you. You can't leave them out there to fend for themselves with nothing but the system of this world.
Right. But before we go, let's stay on the thread of indoctrination.
Ooh, child. So as a little girl, that's how I grew up. Now, I was a very rebellious kid anyway. Like, that was my spirit.
Don't leave her by herself. If you were rebellious, go on and put it in you'll meet in the comments.
Extremely rebellious. My family go through the front door of the church. I'm going out the back. Like, I got to a point that I was not doing this any longer. Like, it just wasn't serving me. I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't hearing it. And I was angry. I had a few things in my life that happened that shifted, my existence. And when children are traumatized, and so what traumatized me may have been something that somebody else be like, oh, girl, it was not no big deal. So for instance, we were moving from Ohio to Seattle, I think. Thank you. Or either Minnesota. I think it was from Ohio to Seattle. And I had a German Shepherd dog. Now, by this time, I'm angry, rebellious, cutting up at school, no respect, no following nobody's genre of nothing. But I had this German Shepherd dog, and it was my lifeline to living. And on the road to Seattle, the dog got sick, throwing up in the car, smelling in the car. Just, there was really nothing that we could do for the dog. And at a rest stop, my daddy left the dog at a rest stop, took the dog off, and left the dog. And we proceeded to continue our journey. That was a pivotal moment for me, because I don't even know if I ever stopped screaming and kicking the back of the seat and crying and yelling. But something broke in me with that experience. And so for me, that was very pivotal. It changed the dynamics of my relationship with my family. It changed the dynamics of my relationship with God. It changed the dynamics of my relationship with myself. That was a pivotal moment for me. And I have several. So for some people, that may not be a big deal. Girl, the dog was sick. What nothing your daddy could have done. Blah, blah, blah. I was 12.
And to talk about something broke in you, how did you know that something broke in you then or later when you started to do therapeutic work?
No, 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 no. I knew something changed in me because
Okay.
for me, it turned into a hatred for my father. It was the dog, which was my lifeline for me. And then it turned into a disdainment, a hatred, a total lack of respect. You can't, from this moment forward, you can't tell me nothing. And every fiber in my being, I got the back of the hair on my neck standing up.
Mm.
I'm tapped into that emotion now. I
Mm-hmm.
remember it like it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because for me, the dog carried so much weight in me, for me, it was mine. I talked to this dog. This dog licked my tears. I felt so alone and abandoned, except this dog was my saving grace. So, yeah, I felt the shift immediately. And I
Mm-hmm.
had a hard time. From that moment forward, it was almost like my life took a left. It took a left turn because it was the picture was my father, but it was everything and everybody else in my life. I had no more regard for people at church. I had no more regard for what it is that they desired for my life. I had
Mm-hmm.
no more regard for following the rules. I had no more regard for myself. I had became the epitome of fighting everyone, including me. And so it showed throughout my education. I went to high school in Seattle, Washington. I should have graduated in Seattle, Washington. But to give you an idea, my behavior was such that I got kicked out of not just my high school, but I got kicked out of the district in Seattle, Washington, which means I couldn't go to school nowhere in the city.
What? You didn't tell me that part.
I couldn't go nowhere to school in the city. And I
Dad,
ended up in this
Dr.
career.
Tina,
I
Dad,
know, girl.
you was raising. You was a hell raiser.
Girl, put a question mark behind that with an exclamation point. It was a mess, girl. I was a whole mess.
So
But I
when you became addicted, were you a teen? Did you become addicted as a teen?
No, it was later on. No, I was full of rage, trauma, anger, rebellion, abandonment, self-loathing, no esteem. Um, so I had the behaviors of addiction. Um, but in terms of the actual substance, that didn't start until a few years later. A few years later. That started a few years later. And so the pivotal point was after high school, because we moved so much, they were moving again. My dad was moving again, and this time they were coming to Atlanta, no, Albany, Georgia. And me and my brother refused to go. We ain't going. I ain't going. So we didn't. We stayed. They left us in the house. I was supposed to finish school, but that didn't happen. What I did do when I did finish, I ended up going to this career entry program, which is a school for at risk teens, and then I ended up going there. What pivotal moment happened while I was at that school is that my dream was to be an attorney. I wanted to be a lawyer.
Me too.
And I did. I wanted to be a lawyer. And my number one person at the school that I trusted, who was helping me, who I believed in to guide me and to help me, she said, "Girl, you can't go. You can't be no lawyer. You can't be no lawyer. You're not smart enough to be an attorney. So I would advise you to go get some secretarial skills and get you a job." Okay. So at the time, that was no big, okay, fine. I'm trusting her. I'm believing what she's saying. Little did I know the psychological impact that would have on the rest of my dreams, the rest of my goals, the rest of my journey. So it was in that moment that was a silent dream killer. So no longer did I dream. No longer did I have that desire or that aspiration because I was told that I couldn't do it. I was told I
My
wasn't smart enough.
goodness. It's always a teacher. It's always
Mhm.
somebody who
Mm,
on the journey who says some like
yeah,
this is another reason why we have to be tapped into our young people because other people are telling them what they can't do.
exactly. So, and it's very important too because teachers are very powerful. I know they're sick of our kids. I get it. I really do. I get it. However, the impact that teachers, and it don't even have to be like an educational
No, it
teacher.
doesn't have to be
It could
that.
be anybody that
The
have
janitor.
influence. Anybody that have influence over your child, over you, over anybody who's listening, if they have influence over you, then they're able to create life in you, or they're able to create death. They're able to magnify your dreams, or they're able to squash them. And so for me, although in that moment, I did not realize how significant her telling me that was, I just bought into it. I just bought into it. Okay, I'm gonna be a secretary. Girl, you gonna put an angry, rageful, bitter, no respect having young girl on a phone at somebody's building talking about customer service. Girl, bye. No, it did not work. So I ended up going, now hold that. So I ended up going to the military. When that was over, it was time for us to, I don't know what my parents were doing with this house, selling it. I don't know what they were doing, but it was time for us to go. I refused to go, so I went to the military. The United States Army. Yes, your girl is a United States veteran, baby.
I forget about that all the time. I forget. Lord have mercy.
Baby, you take that little girl and put her in the military, girl, that's a whole nother podcast. But let's just say this. I went into the Army a private, and 8 years later, I was still a private. Okay. Girl, it was the funniest thing ever. Girl, every time they give me a strike, they take it back. I would say something smart, do something dumb, break the rules, stay after curfew. Just, girl, it was a mess. But I am a honorable discharge United States
and you
veteran.
still get the benefits of a veteran
For the rest of my natural life.
God is good.
Girl, God got a sense of humor, don't he?
Sergeant, lieutenant.
God got a sense of humor. So that was amazing. So I love that. So yeah, I do all the things, all the things. So that was amazing. So now it was also in the military where I got married. I cannot take, when I say nothing, let me tell y'all something. It is some amazing men in the world. Amazing. And I happened to marry one. Now, I didn't get married. I was 19. I was not married because I was so in love and I'm going to live an amazing life and it's going to be beautiful and we're going to have kids. And I'm just so in awe. In the military, when a private and a senior official or officer or whatever, they call it fraternization. You cannot do that in the military. You can't be a private going out with dating a staff sergeant. It's just, those are grounds for Article 15. Those are grounds for punishment. We found out that we were going to be called in by the colonel that following Monday. So that weekend, we went and got married. Beautiful. So
I love that you said good men do exist. Please, some of you sisters in the comments, can we pause right there before you tell us your addiction story? Like, I want y'all to get rid of the addiction to it's no good men out here, because good men are not in the club. They're not on, a lot of times they're not on Instagram and Facebook. They don't do
girl, listen. So see, now this is the part of the story that women, we got to take accountability, right? So we ain't talking about the men that got some issues or that ain't no good, blah, blah, blah. There are some
good men in here. If you got a good man, shout out, I got a good man.
Shout your man out, baby. Because honey, I still, that man is the barometer, because I'm single now. That man is the barometer of manhood for me. I can call his name. Y'all don't know him. Tyrone. That's my ex-husband. When I tell you this man was whatever you could ask for in loving and thoughtful and kind and a protector and a leader and a nurturer and all the things, he had it and then some. And when I tell you loved this girl right here, But can I tell you, this girl was a fool, a natural, crazy, wounded, broken fool. Do you hear me?
I know
Had
y'all know
no.
some good men in there. Some of y'all who hadn't commented, you better give your the brother some love.
I'm
I'm
trying to tell you now,
taking it up.
because
I feel some kind of way about some of y'all who I know got some good men, and y'all
ooh,
not shouting out my brothers in here.
ooh,
Okay,
y'all better give it up for your men now, baby. You better give it up for your men, because
yeah,
this man taught me so much. Now I didn't learn it till later in life,
yeah,
but being married to him for 10 years, not being present, being just so not present, just doing my own thing as if I was single, just going, leaving and not coming back, just all kind of crazy stuff you can imagine. And still, this man was trying to help me. He knew that I had some issues. He knew that I was broken. He knew that I had trauma. He knew all the things. But like addiction, like a substance with addiction, you also have other issues that are addiction. And so people that love you, that try to help you, unless you are ready, nothing they can do for you. There was nothing that my husband could do for me. Nothing, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't listening to him. I wasn't trying to hear what he had to say. I was angry. I was horrible. I
okay,
can
okay.
say it.
We get it, we get it. We got to get
Okay.
to it. We got a
Okay,
whole
good. Let's keep going.
story.
So,
We got
okay, now hold that. Fast forward. Now, where I'm going.
no, where
Uh,
we going is how did you end up stripping and addicted? Okay, we got it.
Girl, please. So I got out the military. That's how I got out the military with a baby. Wasn't quite sure between these two men who the baby daddy was. So I ended up in Albany, because that's where my parents were, and my oldest sister, my big sister. She is now transitioned. Um, she ended up dancing at a strip club in Atlanta, and I ended up following her. Long story short, I ended up following her to Atlanta. I don't even remember the name of the club. I was somewhere
Don't matter.
on.
Don't matter. So your
So we
sister.
ended up stripping. So she ended up at a topless bar. I found out down the street, them girls was making 3-4 times much money at the Blue Flame in Magic City. So guess where I went? It was there that my addiction started. It was there that I started doing all kinds of things that was in line with my woundedness and my brokenness. But it was also there that I started self-medicating. And it was just a little bit, just a little high here, a little high there. Started making some connections, selling a little dope here, selling a little dope there, dating this dope boy, that dope boy, dropping this off, dropping that off. I even went to Singapore to smuggle some heroin, girl. Thank God that did not work out for me. But coming back to LA, they did confiscate the money. But praise God, I did not have no drugs. And so that's when my addiction started. And so I started self-medicating, from stripping, from selling sex for money. And don't judge me. I see you in the comments. She did what? Don't
We
don't
listen,
judge me.
but we
Because
don't.
let me say this, Dr. Latanya, for you pseudo saints, for those of you who believe that sex outside of marriage makes you a hoe, you was a hoe too, girl. Don't judge me. The difference was I got my money up front. You slept with that joker all month long to get your nails done and to get your rent paid and to get. No, don't do me. Okay, I'm gonna stay focused. I digress. Let me stay focused. Okay. So it was. Lord forgive me. I'm
Because
sorry.
all of that captures the church hurt. All of that captures the religiosity.
Oh my gosh.
All of that captures a wounded little girl who doesn't have
Girl,
the communication skills. All of that captures like trauma after trauma after trauma.
it
And the
does.
thing is, we don't think of religion as a trauma.
We don't. We really don't.
We don't
And I
think
was the biggest hoe. Let me tell you something. I was the biggest hoe in the church. Let that sink in.
listen, wait a minute. Stay right there.
I'm sorry, y'all.
This how we cut up. by ourselves, just me and her. Okay,
Oh
baby,
my gosh.
because me and her know some of the same church whores.
Woo, baby. Oh my gosh. It's like, I'm so glad God been dealing with me. I'm so glad. And y'all, this ain't yesterday. This ain't last year. This like 20, 30 years ago. This old stuff. You know
Well,
what I
some
mean?
of it is
And I
because,
can
but when you left, some of the same people that was doing running the same hustle in the church is running the same hustle today. They just got bigger congregations.
baby, I'm talking about I'm seeing them on TBN right now. I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, Lord, I'm looking at them on the network right now. It's like, Lord, thank you for destroying my black book. Thank you, Lord, for getting rid of the names and the numbers and the comments and the thank you, Lord, for girl. Do you hear me? I'm
I
like,
hope y'all laughing in the comments. I hope y'all laughing while you watching, because this is tickling me. But
but
you
let me
can
tell you
laugh
something.
now.
Exactly.
There are some people who, when they tell their recovery story, how they got there, they still break down. You can see still the ick on them. So get it, because we're running out of time. So get us to this moment where you knew something had to shift.
Well,
We might
I
have
was
to
in the
bring you
church.
back for religious
It was
addiction.
right, girl, because it was in the church where that thing woke up in me. So now, my daddy is from the Church of Christ. If you know anything about the Church of Christ, they believe they're the only ones going to heaven. Everybody else going to hell. So when I ended up in Tallahassee, Florida, under the leadership of my regional bishop, Jack Leland, it changed my life. I know God gave me to him. I just know it. This was a man of integrity. This was a man that took me as his daughter, and he knew I was a feisty, fiery, cussing, angry. I'm talking about, I was that kind of child, but God gave him to me. So God gave me a spiritual daddy that could not only handle me, but was a man of integrity. And when I say integrity, I ain't met another man like him besides my ex-husband. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. He is a different breed. And he could handle me. He nurtured me through my stuff. He taught me. He exposed me and never, not once, gave the remnants of violating me as a woman, not jokingly, not haphazardly, not a side. He gave God gave me a spiritual daddy that shifted my life. And so it was then that I started being raised up as a leader in the church, and started doing my own therapy, started going through my own education. Because, long story short, I ended up back where the lady said that I wasn't smart enough. Yeah, the devil is a lie, because I did go to college, because that was my instruction. That's a whole nother podcast. My out of body experience was, you're going to go to school, you're going to get the highest degree that you could. I had no idea what that was. I didn't know nobody who ever went to college. So I ended up going, not even knowing there was something called a PhD or a master's. I didn't know none of that. But when I started going to college, now you got to think.
I want you to wrap it up a little bit, because I just got word that there's
What?
service people here that need access to the power and all of that. So we definitely gonna have to have you back. But I want you to
But we'll
you
come back.
no, but so you got your degree, and tell us how not Dr. Naeem Akbar impressed you, particularly with your mission in Ghana, because that's where we are. We want people to know that they can contribute to your girls. We want them to know what inspired you to adopt this school and create your own space in Ghana
Yeah.
as well. We don't want the power to interrupt that. So tell us that,
Yeah.
and if we have more time, we'll talk until they turn it off.
Okay, guys. So I got an associate's, then I got a bachelor's, and then I ended up at Florida State in the master's program for social work, not knowing I was going to get a PhD in psychology. So in the master's program is when I met Dr. Naeem Akbar. Now, I still had the remnants of a whole lot of stuff still on me. God been dealing with me, but I had a whole lot of stuff left over. Dr. Naeem Akbar was so pivotal in my education. He put me in, I've written articles to his advisement. He has done so much for the psyche of this little Black girl. And he is also the one that took me to Africa. So I went with a group of students to Africa on an Yim Yam ambassador tour, and I've been going ever since, in almost 30 years. And it was through Dr. Naeem Akbar, Dr. Asa Hilliard, and Dr. Wade Nobers. Those were the three Black psychologist pioneers that altered the course of my life. And so Dr. Naeem would speak into my, I was an angry master student at Florida State trying to do something about these professors who, for me, didn't have a clue. And Dr. Naeem was like, girl, you ain't go to Florida State to change them people curriculum. You went there to get a piece of paper that said you qualified. But that shifted everything for me. And so evolutionary wise, I have to give him credit because he changed the game for me educationally. I believe that I could do it because of him, and I did
So
it.
what made you have a school like and adopt a school there?
So I ended up in Ghana. When he took me, I kept going back. So I had his kids named Stephen. Stephen ended up being my kid. So I took Stephen, I put him in boarding school, kept him in there for years. When he graduated, he wanted to go home. Home is the Bonre, which is the village that I serve. Bonre is a government school. It is a local, typical village, but they have a village school there, and all the kids want to go to boarding school. So I couldn't do that. So I adopted the entire school. So what we do in this school at Dr. Tina Projects on Instagram, go look at it. Go look and see what we're doing. Dr. Tina Projects on IG. This is what we do. It was initially my heart work. It was something God gave me to do. I would take my money and I would just put it to the side, and I would go to Ghana and do a little work. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now I take a group over every year. If you want to go, call me. We go every August, first weekend of August. This school, we have boys and girls, and it is akin to what we would call elementary school. And we do everything. We test them for malaria. We spoil them. We do uniforms and books and educational materials. And this year we're going to do uniforms and sneakers, and we just do all kind of stuff. In August, when I bring a group over, that's why we do that. It's called our annual health fair. But I go to Ghana all throughout the year. I work for Delta Airline. Well, I'm supposed to. I'm retired, semi-retired, but I fly all the time. And I'm leaving Sunday going to Ghana, and I'll be back, and then I'll go again. I'll be just
So listen. What is it that you wish somebody had told you when you think about all you've been through in terms of your recovery from religious addiction, from pain addiction, from sexual abuse? We didn't even get into that.
We get there.
All of that. What do you wish somebody had told you?
I just wish somebody would have told me that I'm worth the fight. I'm worth me doing my own work. They couldn't save me. They couldn't get inside of me and shift and change me. But they could have told me that, Tina, you can do it. You got what it takes to live the kind of life you dream about. You can do it. I came up against so much. You ain't smart enough. You ain't pretty enough. You ain't good enough. You don't talk like them. You don't dress. You ain't good enough. So my self-worth was zero. I needed somebody to believe in me.
So were you coming from a religious family? Are you saying you didn't have anybody that told you that you could have gotten over that addictions?
I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. See, everybody that speak life is not giving life. Everybody that can say something to you, it don't carry the same weight unless you believe them. You got to trust the people that's nurturing you. You got to believe in the people who you are allowing to shift the atmosphere inside of you. Intimacy is intimacy. Can they see in me? It's in me, not outside of me. I've always known I was gorgeous. I've always known I could. I didn't believe it. So when you have somebody, it take anointed and gifted people to be able to come in and do surgery in you and twist that thing inside of you to be able to snatch it out. But you can't, it ain't gonna be done without your participation. And so for me.
So what do you think about processes and because you still come in and submit yourself being Dr. Tina, being you still come into these feminine and you work it for yourself.
Yeah, because we never arrive What is arriving at life? Like, what does that mean? Like, when are you actually done growing, evolving, altering, shifting? Who I was last year, baby, that ain't the same baby that's sitting here today. Who I am becoming for the next shift of my life, I got to become someone different in order to walk into that anointing. You can't, you can do what you want to do. Let me fix my words. You can do what you want to do. However, we all, no, let me stop talking about we. I choose to evolve. And if that means that I'm coming to Dr. Latanya's juicy class because I need to get my juices back, the process to figure out, okay, I got all this going on, but where my juicy at, baby? Where my juicy at? I know what to do. I even know how to do it. But why haven't I been allowing myself? So I would sit anywhere that my spirit is calling me from in
Go
order
ahead,
for me
y'all.
to
Y'all go ahead,
grow
because
and
I'm
learn.
closing. They knocking on the door, and the owner to come. I'm have to make sure I tell him that don't you ever come on a Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
I
But
know that's right.
pretty
But
soon we
I'll
go.
come back. I will. I'll come back. And I really want to take questions because people, listen, y'all, we living in these Instagram street worlds where everybody is pretending to be something and somebody that they not. Everybody want to be chasing and getting and doing and, posting all of this stuff. Let me tell you something. I sit in some of these $1,000,000 circles, and a lot of the people are miserable. Let me tell you something. I don't want your kind of money if it means I gotta cry myself to sleep at night. I'm coming. You better not leave out of here.
Oh,
I
you
am,
got somebody rushing you too.
girl. Yes, the ghetto. Okay. So listen, I want you guys to
Listen,
know.
if y'all are enjoying this conversation and want us to finish it, we'll come back tomorrow. We got to
Yep.
do it before Dr. Tina goes out of town. I mean, goes across the waters,
Yep.
because she won't have the same kind of reception. If you all want to meet us at 1 o'clock tomorrow, we'll make it happen. Make sure you're subscribed so you get the alert. But they're literally about to unplug the interwebs so that you can do something for my house. And I'm not going to stop men doing their work. But we are going to go dive into this a little deeper. Thank you, Dr. Tina, for being
Bless you,
ever
my
ready.
sister.
You truly are still wearing that collar, because we know that as ministers, we're taught when called upon to be ever ready.
Exactly.
And
Mhm.
so you always got a word, and everyone is saying they're enjoying this live. And I hope
Oh,
y'all
bless
like how we
you.
cut up. So they're saying yes to part 2, and y'all can come cut up with us, particularly if you want to talk about any addiction. If you want to join us, I love you all. Listen, we're in a Lenten process. It
Yes.
starts tonight. If you are interested and you don't practice Lent, you don't have to be Christian, Muslim, and all of that. You can do a sacred process towards the spring equinox so
Yep.
that you can rise. The theme of this is she has risen. And
Yes.
so so any places that you've died, laid down, become stagnant, this is the season to get in touch with you. I'm getting in touch
Yes.
with me. I'm doing some things for 40 days. The Holy Spirit, through
Me
the
too.
Divine Mother, said it's both and season.
Both
It's
and
time
season.
for us to be spiritual and physical,
Yes.
financial and economical. All of these things
All the
we need to
things.
do money moves and power moves. So it's time for us not to be so heavenly bound that we're no earthly good. It's
Mm.
time for us to put our feet to the ground and to do some things, to lose some weight, to change our language, to heal our family, to do our genia, all of it. 40 days. This, my sisters, is the new way for you to become juicy in the first half of the juicy rites of passage. Our programs have changed, so come. The links are all below. Thank you for coming. We're going to close out now. I love you all. There's nothing you can do about it, and we'll see you on the other side. Ciao, everybody.